What is the real cost of home birth with a midwife who's independently operated versus a hospital birth or someone who's in the medical system where you're covered by insurance? I'm about to get real controversial here, so strap in. Okay, it's not about the money. In fact, when people ask this question, I'm just shaking my head because it actually doesn't matter and it varies. When you put your birth into the medical system, here is what happens, okay? You don't automatically get that completely unmedicated natural birth that you were thinking of. In fact, the medical system is a business. So they are going to do things that are going to lead to more intervention than a midwife. Now, does an independent midwife have an upfront cost factor? Yes. However, you also need to take into consideration the other costs of going with the fully paid or covered by insurance or covered by the healthcare system wherever you live kind of medicalized birth experience versus paying out of pocket for a midwife who's going to support you, who's going to possibly sit on her hands. She's going to facilitate your birth experience. You're really only bringing her in case you need help. She's going to be a lot cheaper in the long run because it's not going to cost you your dignity. It's not going to cost you your autonomy. It's not going to cost you a whole bunch of stress and pain and anxiety as you keep trying to fight with the medical system. It's not going to put you into the path of falling into multiple natural birth traps that lead to a C-section. It's not going to cost you your self-worth. It's not going to take away your power. It's not going to lead to you thinking that your body is broken and defective. You're going to be able to stand in your authentic truth. What is the real price of freedom for you? Freedom to birth the way you want. Freedom to birth in your own home. Freedom to be able to move as you feel you need to move without anybody telling you what to do. Freedom to stay pregnant as long as you want without having the medical system constantly say, you are close to 40 weeks. Let's start doing all of the things to get you into labor so that you hit this automatic timeline. Or you are past your due date. Let's get labor started with induction so that you can meet your timeline. Or they say, you are taking too long to go into labor. We need to speed it up by putting Pitocin into your veins. Or they say, we need to break your waters. Or they're saying you're failing to progress. They're going to do all the things to lead you into a natural birth trap that leads to a C-section or an epidural or an induction, or just your birth is going to be traumatic. I'm just going to say it. The cost, the price I paid by choosing to go with a midwife that happened to be part of a practice with obstetricians, even though it was covered by the medical system and it was covered by our health insurance and everything and it was free, it wasn't free. I wish that I had known what I know now, that if you put your money and your time and your effort into actually planning your birth with intention and refuse to give up your power, sometimes that means you have to pay a little bit out of pocket. Not always, though. Sometimes you can just be like, you know what, this medical system is a backup plan and I'm just going to labor at home as long as possible. And I'll show up at the hospital when I'm about ready to have my baby be born, my partner's ready to catch, my doula's ready to catch. If the medical system is like, we are not going to do anything, we are not going to bring you to the room, or we are not going to catch your baby unless you let us do a vaginal exam. You'd be like, that's cool. Because you know what? You're still not doing a vaginal exam. You're still not touching me. I'm just here to birth my baby and make sure that everything's okay afterwards. But I'm calling in the actual help here. It's not their agenda. So when you do this, when you really understand this, the price of spending on a midwife or a doula to help you with your birth is actually a lot less than going with the insurance companies and what they're approving. Because remember that the insurance companies are also scared. They have been taught to fear birth. They have been taught that birth is dangerous. And the medical system definitely wants it to be that way. They want you to keep thinking that birth is dangerous. Why? Because you're going to get the epidural, which costs money. You're going to go and get the C-section, which gives them money. You're going to stay longer in the hospital, gives them money. You're going to end up using more of their services, money. I'm sorry. Our system is based on profit, convenience, and liability. Don Thompson, one of my dear friends, who is the founder of Improving Birth and now Birthify, stated that years ago. When I found out that birth was based on profit, convenience, and liability, and I saw that documentary with Ricky Lake, and it was The Business of Being Born, I was horrified, and I wanted nothing to do with that system. But I made so many mistakes, which I've outlined inside of my book, Your Empowered Birth, by the way, in the chapter A Harsh Lesson, where I tell you about all the mistakes that I made when I was planning my first baby and what I wish I had known. I think it's either chapter 3 or chapter 4, but the title of it is called A Harsh Lesson. And then after that, I reclaimed my power with the birth of my daughter, and I was willing, absolutely willing, to pay my doula what she was worth, because I knew that she was going to protect the space to allow it so that I wouldn't have to call the midwife until the last possible minute. And even then I sent the doula home. But she was still worth every penny because she was able to set up the pool for me. She was able to give me that peace of mind and know that things were going well. And, you know, that's the thing, is you cannot just penny pinch. When you penny pinch, or when you're trying to compare the cost of a hospital birth and you're saying, well, what's the average for a vaginal birth in the hospital that I don't have the epidural? I'm sorry, but the hospital is not going to facilitate that. They are going to try to push the epidural, especially if they're one of those hospitals where that's their culture. That's why you need the right environment and you need the right facilitators, the care providers who will sit on their hands and trust birth. They're out there. They're usually the ones that kind of tick their colleagues off because they don't toe the line. But if you know what to say to them, if you know how to advocate for yourself, then they don't get in trouble. They can do what they actually came into the system to do, which is actually elicit some change happening. And they can do it through your birth by saying, look, my client has declined all of this and they've done it. So what is it that is really stopping us from offering more mother-centered care? So when you do that, when you really understand that, when you say, you know what, the price of my freedom, my autonomy, my ability to breastfeed my baby, my ability to recover from labor at a faster rate, my ability to feel good in my body, my ability not to have to leave my dignity at the door, my ability to be able to say no to anything I don't want that doesn't feel right to me, my ability to stay peaceful during those last few months of pregnancy instead of having all that pressure from my OB is worth it for me to pay a little bit out of pocket for a midwife. And again, I talk more about this in my book, Your Empowered Birth. There's also some bonuses in addition to that on how to hire your care provider, what to say when you're interviewing with them, what to do in choosing your environment. There's so many bonuses that I could list. I can't list them all. But when you get Your Empowered Birth, it gives you the entire roadmap. And the reason I did that is because I don't work with just anyone when it comes to my coaching. My high-level customized packages, which I only take on 1 or 2 clients per year. And I'm working on some programs now. I'm going to be working on a group program, but it's not done yet. But I wanted to get that accessible. I wanted to get the system out there. So go check out empoweringmomsbirth.com/book and go get your copy. Right now, it's also available on Amazon Kindle for less than a cup of coffee. So you can either get the nice, beautiful paperback and have that in your collection. Doulas and midwives who are any birth workers out there who really embody the message of autonomous birth and empowered birth, if you want to get a copy of the book, then I encourage you to do so. I've bought a lot of books from other birth workers over the years. I promote them all the time. It's going to take all of us, and mamas, This book is invaluable. This is the book that I wish had been written when I was still pregnant with my first baby. It's the book that so many of my clients wish had been written, and I had to teach them the system. Like, this system actually works. You can have your birth the way you want, and you don't have to fight, you don't have to beg, you don't have to compromise. But you don't even have to take my word for it. Go check out empoweringmomsbirth.com/book. Links in the bio. There's some success stories there. I teach more about why natural birth has been failing, what to do differently, how to really play that game in a way that is going to allow you to get that birth that you want. And ultimately, you're going to be able to change the world for yourself, for your children, and inspire others to do the same. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not on the email list, by the way, just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com, put your name in for the email newsletter. I send it out every single week. I give you tips. I give you resources that you need so that you know that you have the right education. I'm all about the right education with these emails. And with my programs, it's about the right support and the right facilitators. I teach you how to keep your mindset strong so you're not in your fear. You're able to move towards the things you want and far away from that C-section, that induction, that epidural that you're dreading. You're going to be away from those vaginal exams that get pressured onto you, away from the membrane sweeps, away from all of those natural birth traps. When you sign up for the newsletter right now, what you're going to get is my list of the 20 traps that are the natural birth traps. It's just a short little list. And then in addition to that, 26 things you need to know if you're in the second trimester or under to plan an empowered birth. So those 2 guides will come to you. You'll also get a sequence of emails from me that will teach more about the empowered birth process. And then you're on the newsletter and you get more tips from me every single week. I don't do spam. I don't do a whole bunch of promotional stuff. I mostly give value through this because, as I said, I don't work with everyone. Really what I'm doing is I'm getting this message out. I'm as committed to getting 2023 and 2024, the years of empowered birth, to really change this around. I'm seeing horror stories everywhere. It's horrible what's happening. And I want you to have your power. Because when you have an empowered birth, nobody can take your power away from you ever again. And it shows you how to step into that power in your motherhood, in your relationships. You can heal generational trauma with this. In fact, this is what I do, is I've taken my entire system and I've done it to create a more authentic, powerful life for myself, for my children. And yeah, that's really the overall message here, is that if you want a very conscious birth, you want to get your copy of Your Empowered Birth. And as I said, if money's an issue, it's now available on Amazon Kindle for less than a cup of coffee. All right. So links in the bio. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.